Hello and welcome. I'm Elizabeth from Elizabeth's Oracle. Today I'm going to be talking about the Sun through the Cardinal Earth sign of Capricorn cycle. So this will be everything that's going on over the next 4 weeks. We're going to look at some charts and I'll go into details about each one. So thank you for tuning in and let's get started. So let's look at this first chart, literally the day the sun goes into the cardinal earth sign of Capricorn, known as winter solstice as well for the northern hemisphere. So several things. And again, I kind of highlight with the colors to help beginners and people see some of the things that I think are important. So you're going to notice a bunch of planets and glyphs that are in the bright green, the darker green. Those are all the ones in Capricorn. So as you can see, when we start this cycle, we've got the Sun, Mercury, which just turned retrograde, and Pluto. Big, powerful combination of planets. When you've got Pluto involved, it's always big. And Pluto, in fact, will be connecting with Mercury and the Sun as they travel through Capricorn. But then you also see another little cluster of planets in green, a lighter green, and that is a group of planets in Pisces. And Pisces is a water sign, and it's mutable, but I see this nice combination of planets in Capricorn and planets in Pisces as one of the bigger stories this cycle, because they are basically making a sextile, which is a very nice, harmonious aspect. And I do feel like there's a broader message. Also, the group with Pisces has the outer planet of Neptune. The group with the group in Capricorn has Pluto. So two of those groups have two of the three major outer planets, meaning a collective influence on all of us. And I really love that we are finally getting to a place where there's all this harmony happening. Now, while that happens, not only are you going to have those meetings in Capricorn, but you're going to have conjunctions in Pisces. And here's a little postcard with the dates of when you're going to have exact Capricorn conjunctions and when you're going to have exact Pisces conjunctions. This means two planets meeting at the exact same point, and it amplifies the energy of the sign that happens in, and then it's colored by the quality or characteristics of the planets involved. So a lot of mingling, a lot of like joining forces, and again, and I'll elaborate on this in a second, but I feel like these are working in their own odd ways. There's a really wonderful way for these two energies to get along. The Capricorn is ambitious, it thinks long term. It is an initiating or cardinal sign, and people will say, what does that have to do with a water sign? That is mutable. Mutable is the opposite of cardinal and initiating. Mutable finishes things. It's the angle here, the sextile, that these guys are. They are both internal or yin signs, feminine we might call it, but they have what we call a negative polarity, that is one thing that brings them together, and it means they reflect inward to a certain extent. Capricorns are definitely not known as the noisiest people in the room. They're pretty conservative. That would have to do a little bit with being ruled by Saturn, but there is a gentleness in the way that they move forward, which would be very different from, say, Aries, the fire one ruled by Mars, which is another cardinal sign. So we have just this, way of building things, but with a very holistic, integrated style and hallmark signature to it, which is all the planets in Pisces. So these things actually blend quite well because of the angles, and I like the energy being overall something that's pulling us a little inward and saying, okay, the chips have landed where they are. We are finishing out 2016. We're heading into 2017. What do we want to do next? How can we be inclusive? So it's very constructive energy, and that can have a very, very spiritual, high-minded quality to it. And I think, can be very relaxing with the Pisces influence here. And because there's just such a gathering, and we're going to have Venus move into Pisces during this cycle, just such a nice collection of planets there. So that sextile story is going to be big. And here's a postcard with dates on these sextiles. I mean, there's just a ton of them happening. So a lot of harmonious energy created with that. So I want you to know we're heading into the new year under a very nice influence. Other thing that you'll see when you look at these charts is the Cardinal Cross being present, of course, with all those planets in Capricorn being 90 degrees away from Jupiter and 90 degrees away to Uranus in Aries. This is big cardinal energy. It's about reform. It's about moving forward. So, but the energies involved, again, all these planets in Capricorn, and as we start the cycle, even the moon joining Jupiter in Libra is a big time of renewal, starting forward, refresh. So as you're, carrying this energy into the new year, whether you celebrate on solstice or New Year's, big energy talking about what you want to do next, and what you want to put in the world, and then some pressure being put on that, some motivation to, kind of thrust you into it. Next thing is, of course, we also still have a mutable cross. I don't want to downplay that, and we're going to have that for another year vaguely, because Saturn will stay in Sagittarius until next December. And that, of course, is now in this very loose, very gentle square to Neptune. I really feel like the harshest part of that is behind us. That was really the story of 2016. And the only thing we have hanging back in Virgo, making it more of the T-square, is the North Node. But that will be changing in 2017. In the first half of the year, the nodes shift back into Leo and Aquarius. Now all that is, again, just look how far apart the angles are. Look how far in degrees the planets in Pisces are compared to Saturn. So it just is not going to be as harsh. It will still be some of an effect. So we definitely have the thing that I've been talking about for a while, which is this combination of a lot of cardinal energy with some mutable energy. But overall, the harshest part of like the mutable T-squares, what you had to release, what you had to let go of, is dissipating. So that's good. And for all you mutable signs, that should mean that things get a lot easier. And I know a lot of you are going to be really happy to hear that. So if you don't know if you're a mutable sign, that would mean you are a Gemini, a Virgo, a Sagittarius, or a Pisces. Almost all the way out of the woods. One more year, but definitely a lot of more gentle energy coming in as we go into the new year. So there are those two squares. I also want to point out we're building towards a huge opposition that I mentioned, the Jupiter-Uranus one on the 26th. On the 24th, we are going to have one of the first trines between Saturn and Uranus. So Uranus over there in Aries is playing a big role. We get this exact trine with Saturn. That's a harmonious aspect, and I feel like it goes nicely with the sextiles, even though we're working in a different energy. Again, we're trying to harmonize things. Saturn is the traditional, the conservative. Uranus is the new, the revolutionary. And they're trying to make friends in this angle. And the only other thing I want to point out about this one, Venus there on Christmas Day, Venus, you see her there in Aquarius, and she is just getting along with everyone. I expect a lot of people having a good Christmas Day here, courtesy of Venus, which is what we value in relationships and things. She just has a banner day. She is just like making friends, has exact sextiles to both Saturn that we were just talking about and to Uranus that we were just talking about. She's just like, hey, I like you, I like you. And she's making a trine to Jupiter that we were just talking about over there in Libra. So like, wow, good Christmas Day. Aquarius is asking us to look at things from the higher perspective, from the higher wavelengths. And again, with the Piscean thing, I think it works out just very nicely. But let's jump on to chart number 2. This is the new moon coming up on late the 28th, early on the 29th, depending on your time zone. And big day. So not only do we have a Capricorn new moon, so all this beautiful energy down here in Capricorn. Again, if we think of it, Capricorn looks at the mountain and it just continually works on heading up there. It sees that peak, it's a 10th house ruler. It is pragmatic. It gets down to business. It's an earth sign, so it wants to build something tangible. It's also where we find recognition in the world. So if you're working on anything, that you would be receiving recognition for, this is a great energy for putting that out there, or again, putting your intention towards what you want to build. So it's such a powerful new moon coming right before New Year's Eve. And, instead of being in the party energy of New Year's, this might be the perfect time for that reflection, ceremony, ritual, whatever you do to bless the new year and set intention, because Capricorn is not afraid of the work. And again, a year from now, it's going to have Saturn coming home. But in the meantime, we can really decide what would we like to have over the next 12 months and set that intention out there under this lovely, lovely grouping and harmonious collection of planets. And again, we're building towards right on New Year's. I'm not going to have like another chart for that because I don't want to overwhelm you guys with charts. But on New Year's Eve, we're going to have that conjunction with Mars and Neptune. Again, Mars is all this energy and passion. And in Pisces, it seems like, wow, like usually Pisces is imagination, creativity. It's considered a little spacey at times. But again, I feel like it's, how sometimes you'll work on something, you have to put it down, and you're like, I just got to go to the dishes or grocery shop, and then all of a sudden the idea, like that brain thing happens, and you get the perfect download about what the answer is or how you're going to solve a problem. I feel like that's, the Mars and Neptune, the Mars and Pisces thing. With the Neptune, that would be, the ability to be creative, to receive those downloads, to lighten up, to sort of, instead of Mars always wanting to take control and take charge, to relax a little and move more with spirit. Neptune's a huge influence, and those two coming together, again, I really love this. I'm feeling like what a nice aspect to draw into the new year. Let's get on to this next chart here for the 3rd. I love this. This is a nice little sextile, not only between, we've got the Mercury and Venus here meeting up, but this chart is to also show you Venus has moved into Pisces. So again, we just have this energy of all this group. Look, on that day, we've got a whole stellium, including the moon in Pisces. Such a strong emphasis on everything that I talked about, which is why I made such a big deal at the beginning. See, the rest of the video is easy because you got the concept. Sextiles, big grouping of planets in Pisces. nice group holding their ground through this cycle in Capricorn. Now, speaking of that, the next day, you can tell in this chart, Mercury's retrograde, moving to those earliest degrees of Capricorn. Mercury will back up into Sagittarius for a couple of days between the 4th and the 12th. It does turn direct on the 8th, and it gets out of the shadow altogether by late January for you guys who are chronic Mercury watchers. So next chart I want to get to is for this full moon, which is also the 12th, the day that Mercury heads back into Capricorn. And what I want to point out here is this makes a very loose, grand cardinal cross here, where we have something in every single cardinal sign, that moon being full. But that also trines, it's a water sign, Cancer, where the moon will be. It trines everything in Pisces. So again, I'm expecting a very peaceful, where we honor the intuition, the self-care, all the Cancerian things. So nice full moon energy. Next chart. So we do have a Mars square to Saturn. Because we couldn't get through all this with no contention. As I said, we still have the squares, and squares are squares. Something's got to give. And in this case, it's Mars and Pisces up against Saturn and Sag. And where I see this, Sag can be a little, if it's not careful, it can be I'm right, because it's about beliefs and philosophies, and it's where people can be a little fanatical about that. And Mars, of course, is the planet of action, sometimes fighting or in war. Could be a hot spot politically because it's the day before Inauguration Day. It's also the day that the sun is changing signs, and I'm gonna pop into the Sun into Aquarius cycle for one day here at least. I do want to show you, I think all ends well, because we have that final, we have I was talking about the sextiles so much and saying that group that you see through all the charts here, that nice grouping, these various groupings in Pisces, constantly with this, pair, at least the Sun and Pluto through the whole cycle, Mercury through most of it, staying steady in Capricorn. On Inauguration Day, we get Venus making a nice connection with Pluto. Again, Venus is what we value. Good money making aspect. We've got Pluto already reforming the government. Obviously, we can tell with the appointments that have been announced is going to be a very different group. And, all this Capricorn energy is more conservative. But again, nice alignment, nice aspects for this time of change. So, that I wanted to dip into just so you could see that trend that I was talking about, of the harmonious aspects between everything in Pisces and everything in Capricorn, which I think is going to be the predominant theme during this cycle, leads us right into the beginning of the next. And I will talk to you about the Sun into Aquarius cycle in much greater detail next month. And let me just finish up with some closing announcements. All right, so I'm Elizabeth from Elizabeth's Oracle. Thank you so much for watching. If you are interested in a personal reading, please come to my site, elizabethsoracle.co, and you can schedule a personal reading. My phone number is here in the description box. We can look at your chart. We can do just a general intuitive reading, whatever you like. I also do a show with my friend Christy Ayala on her show on Blog Talk Radio, Christy's Connection to the Soul, and we go into a little more detail and cover some things that I'm not necessarily able to get into in the videos, and she gives angel messages. And I also have a free newsletter. I meant to mention that, and there's also an oracle message in that, and this month it's really special. I genuinely pray and ask for guidance before I draw a message from my oracle. And I'm so amazed by the one that came in for the New Year edition, but you will have to be on the email list to get that. I want to just keep that as a newsletter subscriber exclusive. But back to Christy. She has a brand new book, Finding Om, and I'm reading through it right now, and so far so good. I mean, so helpful, practical guidance, and particularly this time when people do a lot of New Year's resolutions and you want some support and you want some inspiration. And again, taking spirituality and making it practical, giving you things to do, but not just a to-do list, just some really solid ideas about how to take what you want and to bring it into this reality, which I think is, again, this combination that's happening with everything in Pisces, which is the dream, it's our imagination, everything in Capricorn, which is so pragmatic and so it has to know a way to bring things into a physical form, because it's Earth. So I think this combination is just so fantastic for a melding of those two and a bringing things into form. So thank you again for watching. I'm Elizabeth from Elizabeth's Oracle, and we'll see you when the sun heads into Aquarius. Happy New Year.